Hey you guys, today we're going to be doing this kind of like camo, green, muted, sparkly look. And we're also going to be talking about the little girls that were admitted into the troubled teen centers. So they take in girls as young as 12, sometimes even 11, depending on the school. I know that our sister school had an 11-year-old there. And much of the time, these are kids that were very mildly disobedient to their parents and brought in and paid a very high price for their family's dysfunction. So if you want to hear about the stories about the 12-year-olds and how they were treated and how the troubled teen industry will always take a check even for a little kid that doesn't need to be there, then just keep watching. We're gonna jump right into today's session. This will be a trauma bonding sesh. I wanted to do a full episode on the little girls that were brought to the troubled teen centers. So I got a DM this week of a screenshot of like this tiny little kid who had been brought into the center that I went to as a teenager. The girl looks 11, but she must be at least 12 because they admit kids as young as 12. So I'm gonna do my makeup. And I'm gonna have all the products listed, but I'm not gonna talk so much about the makeup as I am gonna be talking about the little girls at the troubled teen school. So without further ado, let's get into it. I wanna do like a green look. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I know that that's kind of what I wanna do. So let's just see what happens. I'm gonna start out with neutrals and then I'm gonna add my color second. By the way, I already have foundation on, so I'm just gonna bake my under eye to keep it clean. While I'm at it, I may as well brighten the under eye too, because once you bake things, you can't go back over them. And there were two pink Maybelline brighteners at Target near UCLA today. And I bought them both. One for me, one for my clients. And then if I run out, I will take away my client one and give it back to me, baby. Because nobody loves this like I do. Okay, let's do this quick and then we'll get right into the story time. And it's kind of a sad story today. It's like, you know, it's one thing when I'm talking about myself, but when I think about the little kids, especially the little kids that are there right now, it's like next level. Cause like little me is healing from that. Like I've gone back and done this work, but these little kids are gonna have to heal from this and they don't even know it yet. So I got the one size ultra pink powder sent to me, which was very exciting because this is the first product I've ever actually tried from one size and I've already used it on me and on my friend Catrice that I think I posted her look. Oh, I only posted half of her look. Shoot, I have to post the other half. But this is a really good pink powder. It doesn't darken fair skin because I find that a lot of pink powders they're just too dark for fair skin girls. They just are. But this one managed to look great on my friend who's like medium olive skin tone. She's like, who could I compare her to? I don't know, but her skin tone's medium olive and I did a video on her. It worked great on her and it's worked great on me too. I'm super curious to try this on one of my deeper skin clients, so stay tuned. I also got Sweet Honey, which is an amazing brightening color, which I know will work on my deeper clients. But I gotta try the pink on them. Okay, this is the Viseart San Francisco palette. Now let's talk about the little kids in the program. So the troubled teen program that I was sent to admits kids as young as 12, like I said. They claim that it's a program for 13 to 17, but they admit 12-year-olds regularly. And I don't know if they claim it to be an exception or what, but there were always at least 2 to 3 12-year-olds in each dorm when I was there. And you could always tell they were really little They come in with their red eyes. Everybody cries when they get brought in, of course, but the little ones, they just look so feeble, like little babies. You just want to hug them, but we weren't allowed to hug. So for reference, here is a photo of a girl who's in the program right now. Now, I don't know, and I'm going to blur her face out, but I don't know what this little one could have possibly been doing besides just general defiance and disobedience, or maybe she has trauma. A lot of the little girls who were brought in had pretty mild stories, but some of like SA within the family and whatnot. And then of course the little ones take the punishment for the rest of the family's dysfunction. So a lot of the little ones that I went with were just like kind of like generally rebellious towards their parents, but they acted really good in the program because these little kids just want to be loved and accepted. So they actually posted this girl's picture to their public Instagram account, and you can go ahead and go look at it. I'm blocked, so a friend actually showed this to me, and I was horrified because she looks so little. And also, why are they posting her face on there? She can't possibly want to be posted, you know, on a troubled teen school site. I always felt really weird about them taking pictures of us and posting because we don't look or feel like ourselves. But I encourage you to go check out their page and interact with them. See if you get blocked as well. Now, I don't know what this little one did to arrive in kitty jail, but I doubt it was anything besides just like talking back in general rebellion, which is normal teenage behavior. But it's not normal to Christian parents who are authoritarians and they just want you to obey at any cost. You know, this is the type of parent that brings their kids in. They're good Christian people who honestly aren't very warm and aren't very kind towards their adopted children and biological. A lot like mine. So, of course, there are plenty of options besides abandoning your children, but these little girls were abandoned in the program, just like the rest of us older girls. And I often think about where they are today. Some of them I have found on social media. Some of them I can't find, or I reconnected years ago with them and then they disappeared. So it's kind of hard to keep up with people that you go to these programs with, but there's one in particular, one little girl that I think about often, and she's not little anymore. She must be like in her 20s now. Something I also think about often is how it affects these girls who come into the program who are just so young. I think in most cases when you know there's like been childhood abuse and trauma, I think you just hope that they don't remember, but it's not like they're that little that they won't remember. And also, I feel like the younger that you are when you experience trauma like this, the more dysfunction and the more the trauma kind of embeds itself in your brain. Like it becomes a lot less clear of what's right and wrong as you're growing up and learning about the world around you. When you're that age, you just can't really tell if it's right or wrong, I think. Because I wasn't able to really distinguish the manipulation and the trauma and the abuse until years later, and I was 15 when I went. I think at 12, at 11, your brain can't really comprehend what's the abuse that's going on around you. So I am really curious about how these girls feel years later, but I did reconnect with one of the girls who was admitted right before 13, and she said she's doing well and everything, but she said that they recruited her as a staff as well, which I will get into that later because that blew my mind, and I was really proud that she is doing well. But I just wonder like what kind of things haunt her when she's alone, you know, because these memories stay with you. And there was a lot of harassment and bullying towards the little girls, and the staff were actually in on it. So let's talk about the actual logistics of this too. So although the girls were younger, they were thrown in with the rest of the group like normal. The younger girls desperately wanted approval, wanted to be friends, wanted to fit in, and they would do pretty much anything to make that happen, including like rule breaks or like being disorganized or distracted. The little girls like wanted to be a part of this thing. They wanted to be cool and they wanted to fit in with everybody else. And although these were younger girls who needed just a little bit more patience, they were probably given less than normal. They were probably, this is not sticking to my eye. I'm gonna have to use something else. I have this green one by the same brand. It's called Tude, because I gotta switch it up because this is not working. So although they needed like more patience, being younger and just like more naive and more disorganized, and this was a place where you really had to be on top of organization, like all of your personal belongings could get you in trouble if you weren't careful. So even though the little girls probably needed like extra reminders, a little bit more love and kindness and patience, they were actually given less because, like I said, this group really thrived on order and being places at the right time and discipline. So they were actually disciplined the most out of everybody. And they were treated pretty harshly by the staff. I don't want these to crack. These aren't working that well, but this one is definitely better than the first one. Because there was one staff to 20 students, the staff were constantly annoyed at the younger girls because they would hold up the group. You know how I talk about my first discipline was me leaving a sock on the floor? The younger girls would do stuff like that all the time. And it's super minor and it doesn't matter, but in this program, everything that you did was under a microscope. And not only that, but every mistake you made was disciplined in that very moment. So the little girls like couldn't catch a break, and the staff were kind of brash and kind of condescending towards them because the staff were just trying to get a move on with the general group, and the little ones would kind of slow everybody down. There was one 12-year-old who was admitted when I was there, and she was on the spectrum. So she had a more mild form of autism. She had like Asperger's, and she was allowed no special treatment, no extra patience, no extra kindness. Like, it was insane, actually. At the time, I didn't know that that's what she needed because I was like a teen myself. Like, I didn't even know what that was. But the way that this staff treated her and just kind of like bullied and diminished her was pretty nasty. And this same 12-year-old is MIA. I cannot find the girl. I know she's alive, but I don't know where she is. But this little one was disciplined constantly. I'd say she was disciplined more than anybody else in the group. Nobody was ever given any special treatment unless there was like a rare case where you were staff's favorite, but that really didn't happen too often. And this girl was actually like chastised quite a lot. If there was anybody deserving of like a break every now and then, it would be her, because she's just younger and she has like other struggles, and like she's just like a little girl. Like, she couldn't catch a break. At one point she had over 30 disciplines just for like general disorganization. So because at 12, she couldn't keep up with kind of like all the rules and everything, she always had like a back order of discipline. So like, she would leave her towel by the sink. That's a 1-hour discipline. She would slip up and mince up her words and say something that wasn't bad, but it wasn't really allowed. She would say somebody's name that she wasn't allowed to talk about. Just little things like this would just create her discipline book. Like, it was pages and pages and pages. In the staff closet, in every dorm, there's one closet in the back that a staff has a key to. It's called the staff closet. In the staff closet, they would keep every single discipline in there because staff would change out every day, and they wanted each staff to know who had a discipline, who wasn't allowed to be talking right now, who needed to sit at the wall and do sentences, or who needed to do 1 hour on Saturday. On Saturdays, if you had left your towel at the sink or water at the sink or hair in the shower, then you would have a 1 hour discipline. You'd have to work for an hour. So she had a long list of 30 of these disciplines at one point, and she had no leisure time because the only leisure time you get is on Saturdays or after the whole day's activities. But if you have sentences or 1 hour, then you have to write or work for that entire time. So this little girl just never got a break. She never had a moment, and like staff reveled in disciplining her. She was also adopted from Romania, and this little girl, she didn't do anything that warranted her being there because I got to know her. I'm sure she had adoption trauma. I'm sure she talked back to her Christian old parents. Her parents had like gray hair. So clearly they like took this little girl in. Was it Russia or Romania? Actually, I'm not sure. I feel so bad that I don't know, but it's been a long time. They took her in from a different country and then just dropped her off when things got tough. And this is the same girl who has Asperger's. By the way, I'm just lining my whole eye. I want kind of like a reptile vibe. So besides not having any leisure time, this little girl also didn't have much contact with her family because she kept getting in trouble. And when you get in trouble like this and you have the disciplines, you can't write or open mail. So she wasn't able to write. She wasn't able to connect with her family. She didn't lose her phone calls because you don't lose your phone calls unless you're on loss of privileges, which is for greater offenses, but she's still, like, her contact with the outside world was just a little bit more limited, and she was somebody who really needed it the most. So when you see that little kid that I posted in the beginning of the video and how she was on their Instagram page, just imagine that little kid just constantly getting in trouble for just really silly things and not having an outlet or a break at the end of the day. Like, it's sad. It's not barbaric. It's not criminal, but it is sad. Lately, I've been getting some comments like, at just general story times, just like, I'm just talking about it. And they're like, quit complaining. You obviously need more trauma. And it's like, no, you don't. And also, you don't know anybody's full life. You don't know anybody's full story. And regardless of, like, in a bad situation can still be bad and not be the worst ever. Those comments are just so callous and unnecessary. And it's usually from like a boomer. And I love the support of boomers, but like some of them are like, because, you know, some people were raised in a different time where abuse was just really mulled over, and their parents were like, well, you're lucky to not be starving, you know, like that sort of thing. And I get it, but you also can't discredit somebody else's experience just because you've been through something that you think is worse. Because I know that, like, I just imagine these little girls now that they're older, they come out and say some of the things that happened to them. What if they're met by one of these old bullies on the internet, you know, who says like, well, it's really not that bad. You know, it's like, you can't discredit them because that little child who was alone and dropped off in the fucking boonies and left there and felt abandoned again, as some of these girls were adoptees, abandoned, neglected, and alone again. Like, you can't discredit that experience. And like, you can say whatever you want about me, and that's totally fine. But like, when I think about like the little girls, like, there's still like that inner child that like needs that healing and validation that the situation was wrong. And so sometimes I'm really aggro about the boomers on here and on Facebook too. They're like, you should sign up for the military then. Like, bitch, no, I shouldn't. Shut up. Or like my video on gossiping, it was not like the worst story. It was just like, this is how they handle gossiping. Like, gossiping was a big deal there. And so many people like, well, stop complaining. You should go to the military. You should, teaching you not to gossip was good. Yeah, I agree. It is good not to gossip. It's horrible to talk bad about people, even though that's pretty much what I do as a job. Actually, no, I don't. I talk about what other people did to me. I talk about me. This is my life. And like I said, if you end up being the villain in my story because of what you did, then that's your problem. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely the villain in many people's stories as well. It happens to everyone, but some stuff is gray area and some stuff is black and white. Dropping your kid off in Alabama, to me now it's black and white, but to many parents who are going through it, it's a gray area. I didn't bring my tweezers over, which was my great downfall. Oh, it's applying great though. Okay, I just went on a rant. Let's get back to it. So when you had disciplines, you also weren't allowed to interact with other students. And the young girls who always had a buildup of disciplines, there was 2 of them who always had like tons of disciplines, like weeks and months worth of disciplines. Like, what kind of hope do you have when you have that many disciplines? They almost took away one of their family visits because of the disciplines, but you weren't allowed to interact with other girls when you did have these disciplines because you had to spend your time either working and writing, and both of those things were made to do on silence, like no talking, no eye contact, no smiling, no gesturing, no nothing. Like silent, mute. You are mute and you are nobody. So the girls who needed the most connection with the people around them and who wanted approval the most and who wanted acceptance the most and who needed that support the most were denied that over petty things. Like, it's honestly just sad. So although the younger girls, this is by Catrice, although the younger girls never had any free time, one day we were having a really intense chapel service. Our chapel services were crazy. They were very culty. There was speaking in tongues. There would be like a staff who would like speak in tongues like super loud, and then somebody literally would translate it in the chapel. Like, they do that in churches, but like it was just weird because they did that in a church of like just our girls and like 12 adults. Like, it was super strange. So one day they did this whole sermon. Oh no, the rug is fine. So one day we were having this really intense chapel service, and it was about the grace of God. So it was interesting because we got so many different ideas of who God was, and sometimes he was angry and mean, and sometimes he was graceful and kind. And during this chapel, we had fire and brimstone chapels. We had all varieties of them. And in this one, it was talking about like the grace and kindness of God and how God can forgive anything and blah, blah, blah. So what the director did, and it was the first time he had ever done that, and I had been there for 3 years, he decided to forgive all of the disciplines. So the youngest girl, I don't want to say her name, but she was like, yes! She was so happy because she had so many freaking disciplines that she was literally never going to get out of them. She was going to spend her entire program doing disciplines, all of her free time, etc. She was so happy. She was overjoyed. Everybody was happy for her because, like, you know, you feel bad. The little kid is always working, and she just looks like, sometimes I'd look over at her while she's like washing a wall and she's just pining for your attention. Like, it was really cute. She's just pining. So everyone's super happy, blah, blah, blah. We go about the rest of our day, and guess who leaves something out on the floor that day and gets a 1 hour? She does. So the same day that God's grace is so amazing and freeing and amazing, she loses that right off the bat, same day. Like, obviously to them, God's grace didn't extend that far. Like, he's very graceful, but not that graceful. Like, so yeah, you could just see her face drop. But I mean, at least it was 1 versus 30. The girl had so many. Felt so sorry for that little kid. But she got a discipline that very day. And the staff who gave it to her was named Kate. And I don't know if she left or if she asked them to take her off the website, because last I heard she was still there. And she's not kind-hearted, not at all. And she was the one who gave her the discipline, and I just think she reveled in that. Like, she enjoyed giving it to her. I have this discontinued House Labs eyeliner that I'm just going to intensify the green on the lower lash line. And yeah, I'm trying to explain, but it's hard to explain. The environment was so intense and there were so many rules that there was pretty much always an opportunity to get a discipline. It's not like a lot of the time, it's not like you know that you did something wrong. A lot of disciplines were given out for slip-ups or for misunderstandings. Like, once I got a discipline for, like, I was telling a story about me and I slipped in like a he. And the context of it, I can't even remember what it was, but the context of it was extremely innocent, but I got a big set of like super long sentences that day. Like, almost every time I got a discipline, I was like gutted because I didn't mean to. And many and most of the disciplines came that way. So it was truly hard to avoid them. And especially for the little girls, it was just that much harder because they're younger brains. Like, they're little kids. They shouldn't be there. They didn't deserve it. And also, like, if your 12-year-old is so off the rails crazy, which pretty much all the 12-year-olds who are with me were not, they were kids. But if they are, isn't that the time to look inward and figure out what you did as a parent to make your 12-year-old hog wild? Because that's not normal. And yes, of course, there's like a few disorders where like kids hurt people and like kill animals, but none of the girls that I was there with harmed animals as kids. None were vicious. Like, it was just not that type of situation. It was a situation where like the homeschooled little girl from down the street who was adopted from Romania or Russia or wherever it was taken in for disobeying her really old ass adoptive parents. Like, it's messed up. Also, like I said before, how that one staff kind of reveled in giving out the disciplines. This type of environment was like not for anybody who had like good intentions or anybody who had somewhere better to be. Like, a lot of the staff, one in particular was like, I think like an ex-drug addict, ex-felon kind of deal. So it's kind of like they went into rehab under the same umbrella and then they got brought into this program. And so we were dealing with like really unhealed women all the time who were small outside of this campus and who wanted to feel bigger and in control, and also who were obedient to the leaders to a T. So the types of staff that were hired, none of them were like free thinkers, and if they were, they left very soon after. And one of the 12-year-olds, it relates back, one of the 12-year-olds that was admitted in my term there, and I reconnected with her recently, and I asked like how she was doing and stuff and what it was like, and she said that they recruited her as an intern as well, and she stayed there for 2 years. Now, what would a place like this need a 13-year-old? She turned 13 and probably 14 there at the time of her internship or whatever. What would they want her for? only absolute submission, obedience, and to push their narrative, to control her, to control others. That's it. And also to get a really good deal while doing it. Because obviously they didn't pay us. They did the same thing to me. I was super docile. I was easy to manipulate and control. I believed what they said. And when you're younger, I felt this way at 15. So I can't even imagine how the little girls felt at like 12 and 13. I would do anything for the director's approval at that time because I had weird relationships with both of my parents and still a developing brain and lots of like emotional problems. And I really wanted to be accepted and loved. So that's like ×2 the younger that you are. So yeah, that's how they recruited and why they chose to recruit us to turn us into staff members as well. The younger, the better, the more naive, the better, the less experienced in the world, the better. So yeah, this is our look and that was our story time today. I think there is an element of emotion that I missed, but I just can't really tap into what it feels like to be 12 and be in a residential facility because I wasn't 12 when I went in. I was 15 and a half, and it's only 3 years older, but it's very different, 12 to 15. You know, you experience a lot, and the younger you are, the more pivotal each year that you grow older is. So yeah. I still feel sad for the little girls. We should all feel sad for the little girls. I think that's the most crooked part about these programs is that they accept girls who are really, really young. They do it in Wilderness as well. I think in Wilderness, they do the same thing where they say you need to be 13, but I've heard other girls say that there was really young girls there. So, yeah, I mean, who's going to turn down a paycheck? It's a hefty price to go to these residential treatment centers, and if they can collect a check, they'll accept the student, which is really messed up. So yeah, thanks for getting ready with me today. I love you guys. I'm trying to really be better. Last month and the month before, I was in a depressive hole, but I'm out. I made it out the other side. It's the best feeling because, you know, if you suffer with depression, you know that you can't control it and it just comes when it comes. But I think I'm out of the other side of the tunnel. I can see clearly and move my body, and yay! Good for me and good for you guys as well. I love your comments. I appreciate you guys. There is, again, I've now launched some memberships. No pressure. You don't have to join. I wouldn't. But yeah, I did launch that, and I just do a few extra shorts a week and kind of like the BTS of certain scenes, and also just like a little bit more of unedited, uncut real life. So if you want to join, I would love that. If you don't want to join, you're still my bestie. So I will see you for the next one, and thank you again for watching.